Beloved, as we come together in this moment of quiet awareness, let us recognize that every soul present here has walked through seasons where the outer world seems silent and the heavens unresponsive. There are times when we pray without hearing an echo, when we remain faithful without seeing a sign, when we continue to show up in love even though no return seems visible. And yet, I say to you, these are not wasted moments. They are not evidence of divine absence. These periods of darkness, these intervals of seeming emptiness, are in truth the sacred nights in which the soul is being prepared for dawn. You have believed that you were merely enduring difficulty, but you were being led into a deeper place where the presence could be felt, not as something hoped for or sought after, but as the reality of your own being. In your quiet faithfulness, your decision to trust, even when appearances contradicted that trust, you were not earning God's favor. You were being softened, made receptive, given the capacity to perceive what cannot be perceived by the mind that demands proof. For you see, spiritual growth does not take place in the bright light of outer assurance. It takes place in the stillness where no human answer is given and where only the faint inner whisper remains. And so I say, your faithfulness in the dark has not been unnoticed, nor has it been without effect. It has been the very preparation, the hidden work for the dawning of a new consciousness within you, a consciousness through which the Christ can reveal itself as the reality of your life. As we move a little deeper into this awareness, let us consider why your quiet faithfulness carries such profound meaning, even when nothing outward seems to change. You may believe that spiritual progress should announce itself with signs, with answered prayers, with blessings that the eyes can behold. But the truth is that the great transitions of the soul rarely occur in the visible realm. They unfold in the hidden chambers of consciousness, in places you cannot measure, in moments you scarcely recognize. Just as a seed germinates beneath the soil long before it breaks the surface, the work of the Spirit within you has been taking place beneath the appearance of delay. Every time you chose stillness over panic, every time you refrained from resentment, every time you held to truth though the senses saw no evidence, something within you loosened, something yielded, something opened. It may have seemed that you were simply enduring hardship, but you were actually turning away from the power of appearances and placing your trust, however faintly, in the invisible presence that is your life. You see, the soul is not transformed through outward success or visible demonstrations. It is transformed each time you refuse to be governed by fear, each time you decline the invitation to believe you are separate from the source. In these small, unrecognized moments, consciousness shifts, and that shift prepares the way for the recognition that the kingdom of God has never been absent, but has been waiting for your inner sight to become clear enough to perceive it. Now let us come gently to this central theme, for no word has been more misunderstood in the history of spiritual teaching than Christ, and no experience has been more misinterpreted than what has been called Christ consciousness. Many believe it to be a mystical height one must climb to, a spiritual reward bestowed only upon the advanced or the worthy. Others imagine it as a supernatural power descending upon them from afar. But Christ consciousness is none of these things. It is not an attainment, and it is not an achievement. Christ consciousness is simply the recognition of your oneness with the Father. Nothing added, nothing acquired, nothing gained. It is the quiet inner knowing that the life of God is the life you are living, that the mind of God is the mind expressing itself through you, that the love of God is the love that flows as your very being. This recognition does not come with thunder. It comes with stillness. It does not inflate the ego. It dissolves the ego. It does not exalt the human self. It reveals that the human sense of self was never your true identity. And so I say to you, Christ consciousness is not something you must become. It is what you already are beneath the layers of fear, effort, and separation. It is the timeless reality of your being, awaiting only your willingness to see. When Jesus declared, "I and the Father are one," he was not describing an exclusive relationship. He was describing the truth of existence itself. And when that truth begins to dawn within your own consciousness, not as theory, but as realization, you discover the freedom, the peace, the clarity that have always been your inheritance but could not be perceived while the senses insisted upon a self apart from God. Christ consciousness is not a destination. It is the unveiling of what has forever been present at the core of your being. Let us look now at what has been taking place within you, quietly, secretly, beyond the reach of your senses. For while you believed you were standing still, or even moving backward, the Spirit was doing a work deeper than anything you could have accomplished through effort. You may have thought your prayers were unanswered, but in truth your own consciousness was being prepared to recognize what no outward answer could ever give you. Each disappointment, each delay, each closed door was loosening your dependence on the world of form. Every moment in which you felt you had nothing left but silence was softening the surface mind so that the deeper awareness might come forth. What you call darkness was in fact the dimming of the ego's insistence. What you call waiting was the slow dissolving of the belief that you must manage life by human strength. You see, the Spirit cannot reveal itself in a consciousness loud with self-will, crowded with desire, or dominated by fear, and so in ways you did not perceive. The false images of a separated self were being thinned, worn away, emptied out. The belief that you were the one responsible for keeping your world intact began to fade, and in that sacred fading, a space was created, an inner openness, where the presence could be felt not as something to be invited, but as the reality that was never absent. Do not think lightly of this hidden work. It is the very foundation of illumination. Long before light breaks upon the surface, the roots must deepen, the soil must soften, the seed must surrender to the invisible process taking place within it. And so it has been with you. The Spirit has been preparing you to receive what you could not have borne earlier. The recognition that the life you have called your own has always been the life of God expressing itself as you. And now, as this inner work begins to bear fruit, there come certain gentle indications, not dramatic, not sensational, but unmistakable to the soul that Christ consciousness is beginning to break through the layers that once obscured it. You may notice first a quietness within you, not produced by effort, not maintained by discipline, but arising naturally as if from a deeper place. Circumstances that would once have provoked fear or agitation no longer hold the same authority over your mind. You find yourself responding softly to situations that formerly stirred you to anxiety. There comes, too, a subtle compassion, not willed, not practiced, but flowing, like a gentle stream from a presence that seems to be living your life for you. You sense a certainty, not the certainty of belief, which argues, nor the certainty of emotion, which fluctuates, but the certainty of truth silently known. It does not ask for agreement, it does not need validation, it simply is. And with this certainty comes an easing of your desire to control outcomes. You begin to realize that life unfolds according to an intelligence far greater than the personal mind. And so the impulse to force, to push, to manipulate begins to dissolve. You notice moments of spontaneous gratitude, gratitude without reason, gratitude not tied to events, but rising like incense from the awareness of being held by something infinite. There may even be fleeting glimpses of presence, a sense that something sacred is here, closer than your breath, nearer than your hands and feet. These are not experiences to cling to. They are signs that the veil of separation is thinning, that the recognition of oneness is dawning. Christ consciousness is not arriving from outside. It is emerging from within, quietly, gently, as your own true self coming into remembrance. As this dawning awareness begins to reveal itself, the question naturally arises, how shall we cooperate with this inner breakthrough? And the answer, dear friend, is far simpler than the human mind imagines. For the Spirit does not ask you to do more, it asks you to do less. It asks you to cease striving, to relinquish your attempts to force spiritual experience, and to rest in the truth that the work is already being done within you. Whenever the sense mind urges you to try harder, simply pause, become still for a moment, and turn inward, not with effort, but with receptivity. You are not seeking to bring God into your life. You are recognizing the presence that is already here. And so, let your moments of silence be just that, silence. Do not fill them with affirmations, nor with supplications, nor with attempts to declare truth into existence. Truth needs no declaration. It needs only recognition. Let the sacred words, I and the Father are one, arise within you, not as a tool to achieve something, but as a quiet acknowledgement of what is. If you find yourself grasping, release the grasping. If you find yourself seeking signs, surrender the need for signs. If you find yourself trying to feel spiritual, recognize that such trying itself is the veil. The Spirit is not reached through effort, but through yielding. As you navigate your day, allow decisions to arise from the inner peace rather than the anxious mind. Let guidance come not from debate or analysis, but from that subtle sense of rightness that flows when you rest in the presence. And if at times you falter, simply return without judgment, without striving, to the awareness that the kingdom is within you. The breakthrough is not yours to manufacture. It is yours to allow. And the more gently you allow, the more naturally the inner light reveals itself as the very life you are living. As this inner shift becomes more established, you will discover that life itself begins to take on a different quality, not because the outer world has suddenly transformed, but because you are no longer meeting it from the level of the anxious self. You may still encounter challenges, for life in this world presents its appearances to all, but those challenges no longer possess the capacity to disturb the depths of your being. You find yourself moving through circumstances with a quiet steadiness, as though an invisible foundation supports you from within. You speak less from reaction and more from clarity. You listen not only to words, but to the presence behind them. You begin to notice that the desire to secure outcomes, to prove yourself, to manage every detail, loosens its hold. Decisions arise more naturally, more peacefully, almost as if they are being made through you rather than by you. Prayer becomes not a request or a bargaining, but a gentle communion, a resting in the awareness that the life which animates you is the same life that governs all. You begin to sense that you are not the architect of your journey. You are the transparency through which divine intelligence expresses itself. This realization brings humility, not pride. It brings freedom, not ambition. You may realize that you no longer crave the approval of others, for your security does not come from their opinions. It comes from the felt recognition that you live in God, and God lives as you. Even love becomes purified. Instead of seeking love to fill a void, you find love flowing from you without effort, for it is no longer personal. It is the nature of the presence expressing itself. And as this consciousness stabilizes, you discover an ease in daily living, a sense that you are carried, guided, sustained by something infinitely wise. This does not remove you from life. It allows you to engage life fully, but from a deeper center, a place where peace is not the result of favorable conditions, but the natural atmosphere of your being. And now we come to a sacred moment in the inner journey, the moment when the soul awakens to what has truly been taking place all along. This is not a moment marked by fireworks or emotional intensity. It is often as soft as a breath, as gentle as a whisper within. But in that stillness, a recognition dawns. Your faithfulness in the dark was never about holding on until God acted. Your faithfulness was the very doorway through which the light could enter your awareness. You begin to see that the delays you resented, the struggles you endured, and the unanswered prayers you questioned were in reality the Spirit loosening your grasp on the personal sense of life. They were the slow unthreading of the belief that you live apart from the source. When this recognition comes, it feels as though a veil has dropped, not because God has drawn nearer, but because the sense of separation has quietly dissolved. You realize that nothing needed to change outside of you. What needed to change was the lens through which you looked. And as that lens clears, you discover that the presence you longed for in the silence was the very presence sustaining you throughout the silence. You discover that the strength you believed you lacked was the strength of the infinite moving through you. You discover that the peace you sought was the nature of your own being, waiting patiently beneath the turbulence of thought. In this moment of realization, gratitude arises not for what you have received, but for what has been revealed. The truth dawns that you were never seeking God, you were seeking the awareness of your oneness with God. And the long night of faithfulness was the gentle preparation of consciousness for that dawning. It becomes clear. The light has not come from outside. It has arisen from within, unveiled by your willingness to trust when nothing seemed trustworthy, to be still when everything urged movement, to listen inwardly when the world offered only noise. Your faithfulness was not a test, it was the opening of the heart through which the Christ could reveal itself. And so, beloved, as we bring this time of reflection to a close, let us remember that nothing we have spoken of today is a promise for the future. It is a recognition of what has already begun to unfold within you. The spiritual life does not ask that you strive towards some distant attainment. It invites you simply to rest in the awareness that the work is already in motion, that the presence is already expressing itself as your very life. Do not leave this moment seeking signs or searching for evidence. Let the stillness itself be enough. Let the quiet assurance within you bear witness to the truth that you do not walk alone, that the Father has never been apart from you, and that every breath you take is breathed in God. As you move through your day, carry with you not a technique, not a formula, but a gentle remembrance. I rest in the presence that lives as me. When fear arises, you need not fight it. Simply turn inward and remember. When confusion comes, do not struggle to find clarity. Allow the inner light to reveal what needs to be known. When you feel yourself seeking, longing, reaching outward, pause and listen. Listen for the subtle whisper that says, "Be still, for I am here." In this recognition, life becomes less a journey of becoming and more a practice of allowing the infinite to express through you, to guide you, to sustain you. And in that allowing, you discover the peace that does not depend on circumstances, the joy that does not need a cause, and the love that flows without measure. Let this awareness accompany you now, quietly, effortlessly, as the truth of your being. For the kingdom is not coming, the kingdom is here. The Christ is not arriving, the Christ is revealing. And your task is simply to rest in what has already begun.